Donald Trump, who, let's not forget, when he was renting his apartments and his property, refused to rent to black families.
We get it that you're from a middle class family. Like, can't you just get to the point? With only about 2 or 3 weeks left in the presidential election, Kamala is focusing more on the black community. Let's hear what she has to say in this interview with the Shade Room.
That there are two very different visions for our nation that are being presented to voters right now. On the one side, you've got Donald Trump, who wants to take us backward. Donald Trump, who, let's not forget, when he was renting his apartments and his property, refused to rent to black families. Donald Trump, who, as it relates to 5 young black men, they were actually teenagers and Latinos, the Central Park 5, he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for their execution. They were innocent. Donald Trump, who referred to the first black president and suggested, remember the birtherism lies, that he couldn't have been born in the United States. Donald Trump, who in his Project 2025, the various things that would happen would include allowing it or making it easier for companies to not give workers overtime pay.
If Trump just said that he's going to be taking taxes off of overtime pay, I don't understand that statement that she made.
Well, I think it's because they're trying to associate Project 2025 with Trump all the time. But if you really want to look at what he has, he literally has it on his website. It's Agenda 47.
Now, this is what seems to be Trump's true agenda, Project 2025.
I mean, pretty much it's right here, guys. If y'all want to look into it, whoever you're voting for, if you're voting for Kamala or Trump, just make sure you're doing your research.
Yeah.
Okay, and on that, she did mention about Donald Trump's issue with the tenants. That started, if I'm not mistaken, I read an article on the New York Times, and if I find it, I'll link it below. And it pretty much said that it's started in 1960s, pretty much during the civil rights era with his father. Whenever his father first started doing all that stuff, Donald Trump was 17. But it did continue. The lawsuit was actually in the 70s, and the lawsuit was done. Donald Trump was already part of the business and was already of age and everything like that. But I just want to give y'all some facts on that. Number 2, I know she mentioned the Central Park 5. And with the Central Park 5 situation, many people were angry. And with the boys pleading guilty, a lot of people were upset. And at that time, that's whenever Trump put out the article saying, like, hey, if they did this, they need the death penalty. It seems like with all the information that's came out now, it's pointing to the fact that they're not guilty. And if that's the case, I don't like the fact that Trump is kind of not wanting to apologize. His response on that was basically, they pled guilty. People don't think that they should have been released, so he's not going to apologize. I think it's a little bit ironic, too, coming from Kamala, to try to persecute him for his opinion whenever under your watch innocent people were actually sitting on death row because of, evidence that wasn't brought forward, that should have been brought forward, that would have proved them not guilty. And there's another thing she said about Obama and his, where he was born at, because he was born in Hawaii. So a lot of people at the time were saying, like, hey, was he born before or after Hawaii was part of the United States? Which obviously, guys, he was born after.
Was running. So when you hear those words, I'm sure you were briefed on the situation. Former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, she came out on CNN and said, why are you, putting black men up against the wall and pressuring them into something that possibly, they don't want to do if they want to vote for you or not. So my question to you is, do you think that what President Obama said was the right thing to say?
Yeah, with Obama saying some of the things that he said to these black men, I really feel like it's a desperate attempt at trying to get more black male voters. And I feel like it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. I feel like Obama, with the way he went about it, could have really damaged her campaign. But let's go ahead and see what the original clip looks like.
And you're thinking about sitting out? I'm not. But, Cousin Pookie might be. And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that. Because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. You're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable. That's not, this shouldn't even be a question.
I don't think it's wrong to think differently than the next. If you guys don't remember, before Biden, Trump has done a few things for the Black community. Like during his presidency, he worked with Kanye. He worked with Kanye to release some of the Black Americans from jail, and he was also making something called the Platinum Plan with Ice Cube in 2020 that was going to put more money into the Black communities. And I mean, he's also made one of the largest donations to HBCUs. Regardless of that, though, I mean, some of the Black men that Obama was talking to and kind of demeaning their voting preferences. I don't think it's because it was a woman. Obviously, I mean, some of these guys may just have more conservative values, and they just feel more comfortable with voting for Trump because he has more conservative values than Kamala. I mean, she's known to be one of the most liberal presidents. So I mean, if she becomes president, so.
But if I'm being honest, I know a good amount of people who, voted Obama and voted Democrat, even voted Joe Biden, but now they're not voting. They're not voting Democrat again. They have changed their viewpoints. A lot of me personally, there's literally like a movement for Latinos right now called Lexit, because they're realizing that they grew up with more traditional values, so they're starting to vote conservative. And it's nothing about, oh, well, I'm going to vote for the man over the woman. It's just their particular values. And I don't think we should demean each other over the fact that we just maybe grew up different, or just feel like, hey, I like these reasons over these reasons.
Let me tell you, I am very proud to have the support of President Obama, and that he is out traveling to talk with voters about what is at stake in this election. I'm very proud to have his support. What is also important is, one, to understand, like as I said, I intend to earn the vote of everyone, including Black men. Two, pay attention to everything that President Obama talked about, because he also talked about at length the danger of Donald Trump. The danger of Donald Trump, in terms of somebody who has said that they would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, somebody who has referred to Black immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, legal immigrants, as though they would eat their pets, constantly perpetuating tropes. Remember, Donald Trump, who said in Charlottesville, there are good people on each side. So
yeah, no, with the Charlottesville thing that she's talking about, with Trump saying that there's good people on both sides, that video has been edited to make him look bad and make him basically saying that KKK and Nazis are all good people. But this is the real clip.
You're putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
Mr. President, you're on both
sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as you, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Unfairly, sir, I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly? I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this. There are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But
So I completely agree. And like you said, there's people on both sides who were there peacefully protesting because of the way that they feel about it. That's cool. But then there goes this is what he was pretty much saying, but then there goes these, you know, racist white folks, KKK members, whatever. They're causing havoc. And then here comes, I'm assuming he's talking about Antifa whenever he says, black here. That's what I think. That's what I think of, at least, yeah. And he's not saying that a lot of what I'm seeing from the left side was a lot of the narrative saying, oh, he never condemned the KKK, he never condemned the Nazis or whatever. He literally did it probably like 3 times, maybe more. But they're not going to show that part. And this goes for both sides. They will clip it and show you what they want to show you, and that's it. And that's not right, because then you have these people that are just looking on Instagram, TikTok, and whatever else, and making their vote based off of that instead of actual,
going
facts.
back and seeing like the full clip.
The fun part. I want to ask you about your plan for Black men.
Yes.
It's something huge
Yes.
that you have just released this
Yes.
week. We're talking about 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to $20,000
Right.
to Black entrepreneurs, men and women,
Yes.
correct? Expanding access to bank accounts, expanding the child tax credit. Many things that you're doing.
Don't forget my housing.
Lowering rent, making it affordable to buy a house for
Yes.
first-time home buyers.
Correct.
Talk to me about this
Yes.
plan, just in summary, and how this will impact not only Black men, but all Black people.
Sure. So look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother worked hard, she saved up, and by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home.
This has been memed to oblivion. I don't understand what it is. We get it that you're from a middle class family. Like, I feel like even SNL is mocking you on it. Like, can't you just get to the point? I don't know if you guys have seen that, but yes, SNL is even mocked her.
Family Feud, right? Yeah, Family Feud.
This is the most annoying thing in the entire election right now. She can't answer straight on question when it's something difficult.
Ambitions, those goals, and those dreams. So, for example, housing is too expensive. The American dream is something that previous generations could kind of count on, but no more. So, one part of the problem is that we have a supply issue in terms of housing supply. My plan includes working with developers to do and home builders to create incentives for them to build 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. The second part, which is equally important, if not more, is to give people, first-time home buyers, a $25,000 down payment assistance. Because what you and I know is a lot of folks want to be a homeowner, but they don't come from money. They don't come from some families that can necessarily give them or pass on a home or give them the equity out of their home to help them with the down payment.
I'll say a few of her ideas actually sound good, but it just, you gotta weigh out the pros and cons. Where's the $25,000 gonna come from? Our tax dollars. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot to think about. And same thing with Trump and his tariffs. It's like, you know, it could be risky. So whenever y'all are voting based off of these things, I would just say dig deeper into them and make sure that it's an actual good plan.
All right, but thanks guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, and please leave comments on the video. See you guys later.